Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Sami Heyman Marrero from Urbender, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majoka from UdoU. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of I Have Something to Say. And we have as our returning guest, Trish Perry with Harmonize Coaching. About 6 weeks ago, we had Trish as our guest, and she talked to us about Power Path Coaching and Power Path Goal Setting. I was like, And so I decided to go on this journey of goal setting way before 2021 and just not go the route of, putting together some resolutions for the new year, because who does that anymore, right, Trish?
Right. Absolutely. Well, actually,
exactly.
a lot of people do that. And
I'm kidding. I know.
The amazing thing is 85% of all New Year's resolutions are dead by February 15th.
Yep.
Right. So we're not doing that anymore, you see? And so we says, you know what? We enrolled our entire team, everyone on the Urbender team, including Chris. We're like, Chris, you're part of the familia. You're going to come on. And we did this goal setting 4-week workshop. And it was fantastic. I'm so amped. And so we wanted to bring Trish back on so we can have a discussion about it, because it was a little bit unorthodox in the sense where the coach also took or participated in the workshop. Why did you decide to do that, Trish?
Well, it was the beta workshop, number one. And so I was obviously facilitating and coaching through the workshop. But I thought, if I'm really going to understand this, I should also be a participant. So I did the work along with y'all. So you had homework every week to do before we got there. And I did the homework right along with you. And I ended up with some amazing insights. And I'll just share one with you. So the workshop is broken down into what I call 9 C's. So those are the 9 steps to goal setting. The first 2 are first, closing your year out. So what happened that was great in 2020 and that you want to bring forward, and what wasn't so great? The cool thing about that was that categorically everyone said, wow, I was so surprised that so many more good things happened than I thought happened. But
right.
Then in the second class, we did creating your success story. And creating your success story, as you know, was about sitting in December of 2021, talking to someone you respected or a loved one, and telling them about how successful your year had been. And as I'm writing it, all of a sudden, one of my successes came out that I had written a book. I hadn't planned on writing a book. I do have an idea where that came from, but it was not, had I just set my goals and not been through that part of it, I never would have set writing a book as a goal. So those are some of the really cool things that came out. It was great.
No, I agree. I mean, what was your favorite part, Chris? Because I can tell you what really struck me and what's worked for me.
Well, I would say oddly enough, my favorite part started off as my least favorite part, which was the taking the time to actually write it out and not type it out, but just the physical action of, because I'm on my computer all day unless I have a camera in my hand. And so for me, I just go typing from one thing to another, and to actually sit down and have to, sit at my dining room table with a pen and a pencil and like, all right, now I got to really think about this was was ended up kind of being my favorite part, because it really allowed me that time to like think and get away from the technology and just be like, okay, what do I really want to do, and who do I really want to be moving forward with my goals.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So that's one of the C's, and it's called committing to your goals.
Mm-hmm.
So neurologically, when you write by hand, it triggers a portion in your brain, and I won't get too far into this, but it's called the reticular activating system, or RAS.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is it really helps you to focus, and it helps you to put that information into memory and motivate you. So scientists talk about 3 times when it's really good to use handwriting. And the first is when you are creating goals. The second is when you're brainstorming, and then the third is when you're studying. So they have done studies of students taking tests, those who have handwritten notes and those who have typed notes, and the handwritten notes always do better on their tests than the typed notes. So it's really fascinating that we now have scientific evidence to show that handwriting truly does help.
Yeah, that my scribbles have value.
They
You see?
absolutely
It's like
do.
it's a hot mess, but yes, but it works.
Well, it does. And, I just wrote a newsletter this past Monday called Please Leave Your Brain in Your Office. And it was
Yeah, I
because
saw that.
my boss had said, when I was at Target, had said, come into my office. I have some things to go over with you. So I walked in there with my notebook and my pen, which I carried with me everywhere. And she looked at me and she said, no, turn around and go leave your brain in your office. I was like, what are you talking about? She said, I want you to come in without a notebook or a pen. So she thought she was doing me a favor, because she thought, if I really listened to what she had to say, then I would get a better idea. And actually, for me, I'm a kinesthetic learner, and writing is part of being kinesthetic, and doing action and doing something as you're learning. And I have to write. I rarely go back to my notes, but that's what commits it to memory to me, is by actually writing it out by hand, and then it commits it to memory. So anyway,
Yeah, me
we all
too.
work differently,
Yeah.
but it is scientifically proven that, especially
Yeah,
in goal
it was great. It was great, and I think that was my favorite part from the beginning and in the end too, throughout the whole thing. And I actually have my written to, like, because it's a
Mhm.
double-sided sheet, right? I have it on my nightstand there. Every night I see it, and I'm like, that's it right there. But what really impressed me about that exercise of standing in December 2021 and talking about your goals, just matter of factly, like this is what happened, as if they already occurred, was so awesome, because a lot of the things were kind of like in seed format, some of the things were like, well, this could be viable, it's like, so it's like an exploratory exercise, but the
Absolutely.
minute I put it on paper, all of a sudden it's been like one thing after another. And then I read it to Scott, my husband, who we also work together. He was part of the group too, because we enrolled
Yes, he
everybody
was.
on our team. And so then I read it to him, and he's like, well, aren't those goals kind of lofty? And I'm like, oh, shut up. Why do you have to bring on what do you mean lofty? Bring on my parade. But then, of course, because now he knows all of the business things that are happening. One of the goals was to get a loan to put in a pool, because with COVID, I'm like, we're not going anywhere, so might as well have a pool. And we got it approved, and it's hard to get a loan. I found out, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're self-employed, oh my gosh, it took forever, but it happened. So it's almost like so part of the goals was said, oh, and now I exercise and swim, at least every other day inside my brand new pool installed in the spring of 2021. It's gonna happen. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God, this is like, it's really happening. Scott can't even believe it. I told him the other day, I says, we're getting up. He's like, I can't even believe it. And he said, oh, that was part of my lofty goals, right?
Well,
So
he was so funny because he said to me, I had my doubts. I kind of went into this, but whatever. He's like, and I came out of this with these great goals, and I loved it. At the end of November, he said that he had already made like massive progress on his goals, and he wouldn't have.
Yep.
yes.
And so I loved that. But you talked about him saying that your goals were too lofty. There are
Right.
on the website, I've got dream big, set and plan your goals, take action, and then the fourth piece is celebrating. That's the 9 C's all fit into that. But you know what? Nothing big ever happened by people dreaming small.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, so think about Steve Jobs and everything he did in his life. It wasn't about dreaming small. Think about Walt Disney and Disneyland and Disney World and all of just what it has become. He had lofty goals.
Yep.
So next time anybody tells you about lofty goals, hell yeah, I have lofty goals.
Yeah. And of course the plan was to start all of these things, right? Like in January, but then some of us, did you start now, Trish, or what's your deal? What's your timeline with your goals? But it's great because it's like you don't have to, you could start whenever. I was so amped, I just ran with it. But what about you, Chris? Did you start?
I initially set my goals for to start in December, but I have since pushed them to January. Just well, interesting enough, I'll say other things got in the way, but I'll say other goals got in the way. So because I had already set some goals, I set some more that I was like, well, I want to accomplish this before the end of 2020. And oddly enough, like, so even celebrating, so I purchased a new drone for my videography business, and I knew it was going to take about 2 weeks to come in. But I legally don't have my drone pilot license yet. So tomorrow I'm going to get my FAA pilot license to be able to legally fly the drone. So I already purchased my celebration in advance. It hasn't come in yet, but I was like, well, if I'm gonna celebrate, I got to have a goal to celebrate. So I kind of worked backwards in that department. But my big goals that I set in the course are going to start in January.
That's
okay,
very
cool.
Well, and you were talking about starting them right away, and that's one reason that I designed it to be in November. December is all full of holidays, right? But in the month of November, you really have room to be able to say, okay, what is my year going to look like? So now all 15 of you out of that with not only your goals, but a 90-day plan and your milestones of what you need to do for the year, and then a 90-day plan of how you're going to start it. And some people started it in December. And so they're that much further ahead. So I'm thrilled with the way that it went. So
me too. And then on top of that, we have accountability. I love the part about the accountability partners.
I need
too.
that.
Yeah, you need that, right? Yeah, we already met. We already had our first meeting, and we're meeting once a month, and it's pretty cool. But I knew it when you put me with Joel and Sarah, but particularly with Joel. The minute he opened up his mouth, I said, "This was intentional. This is
yes, it was very intentional."
Trish put me and him in the same space, And it's
Yep.
wonderful, right, that we can do this, because you guys are up in Minnesota, and it's so cool because now I have like this buddy that's holding me accountable, and Sarah's fantastic too, and they're all
Right.
the way over there, but they're all up in my business. He texts me like every other day,
Right.
because now we it looks like we might be working on something together, which is part of my lofty goals too. It's crazy, like the whole thing is nuts right now, but good nuts,
Right. So you went through the process of closing the year,
hmm
clarifying your values, because what you wanted
hmm
to make sure that the goals that you set really align with your values. That's the one
hmm
of the key ways to make sure that you can actually finish your goals. Then you
yes, stick
create
with them, yeah.
Yep. You create a success story. Out of that success story is where you chose your goals. So you didn't just sit down and say, "Oh, what should I do this year for my goals?" You pulled it out of your success story. So it was a
hmm
more holistic picture of your year. From there, you committed by putting it in writing. Then
hmm
you constructed a plan which included your milestones and then your initial 90-day plan. And then the
hmm
piece you're talking about now is communication.
yeah.
So the best way to ensure that um, see your goals to fruition is by communicating. And what we did was we broke you up into 5 groups of 3. And those groups of 3 are your accountability partners for the entire year. So some people
Right.
are meeting on a monthly basis, some on a quarterly basis, but you're meeting and you're saying, "Okay, here's what I've done, here's what I've accomplished, here's what I'm going to do." And the best part is what we talked about. If there is an issue, don't not show up to your accountability meeting,
Mm,
because that's a time when you can say, "I need help. I've lost my motivation."
mm,
And then those other 2 people who know what your goals are can really help to motivate you to get back on track. So,
mhm.
so many different reasons why you should do that, but it all comes together really, really well. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, so then there's that piece of communicating. And then the next piece, which I think is really interesting, which y'all haven't had the chance to do yet because you haven't gotten far enough into your goals, but usually when we set goals, there are goals for the entire year. And you might look
Mhm.
back at them, but you certainly don't do what I call check and change.
Mm,
And check and change is about, okay, where am I on this goal? What's changed in my personal life? What's changed in my business life? What's changed in the economy? What's changed in the environment? Because you might need to, just like any project that you do, there's always something that comes along. You have to shift your plans and you have to shift the goal, right? That's what you're going to
mhm.
do. Is you're actually going to make the changes based on what's going on in your life. And then finally, we have celebration. And celebration is about the small little things you get
The
done. It's
whole yeah.
about the medium things and it's about the big things. And then as a team, we came up with what are those different ways to celebrate. So then
Yeah.
you had 15 people creating this celebration list. So you can certainly choose from that and decide what works for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, totally. I love that part too, and I think everyone was just so creative with the ways they would choose to celebrate like small victories,
Right.
medium size accomplishments, and then like a big, huge, goal having been met, or the lofty goals, right, having been met. And so that was very interesting to me, but it was also funny because some people was like, well, that to me is like a like a
I
like an
know.
epic, celebration, and so it
Right.
was funny to see how people also, right? celebrate differently. So I like
I,
that too. And I like that the group was very diverse too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we
yeah.
found generationally, ethnically, genders. It was just fantastic. I think it was a really, really cool experience, and I can't wait to see. I know that we have a middle of the year touch point, so
Yep.
We do.
that'll
We
be
do.
a good time to check. But
Yeah,
you're doing this again, Trish.
I
You're
am.
doing this again.
So I
Yeah.
was telling people that I was doing it in November, and they were like, "Well, when are you doing it again? I want to take it." So
Yeah.
we set the dates to January 10th, the 17th, 24th, and 31st. So the last 4 Sundays in the month. And it's from 4 o'clock Central Standard Time to 5 o'clock. So it's just an hour. And I am limiting the workshop to 20 people. And
Right.
again, it was the beta group that really led me to that, because there was such a sense of community within
Mm-hmm.
that group. But once you get over 20, you can easily lose that.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
we have talked about, once we fill the 20, we may even add another workshop in January. That will
Right.
depend on how quickly we fill up. But there's a
Right.
really cool part that we have now added that wasn't there
And it
when
is
all took it. And it's called 50
okay.
Fun Things.
Oh yeah.
The
So
fun
Teresa,
things.
50 Fun Things. So Teresa Thomas is a speaker. She runs the Women in Networking Win-Win group in Minnesota. And when she turned 50, she decided, I want this year to be fun, and for me to challenge myself and do things out of my comfort zone. So she created this calendar of 50 fun things. And it was everything from something really small, like having having a drink on a rooftop deck at a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
to going to Tuscany. So, and
Mm.
everything in between. And then on her 50th birthday, she shared that list with her friends and some people who, were acquaintances. And people signed up to do things with her. So so it just wasn't her doing these 50 fun things. She created this entire community around these 50
Mm-hmm.
fun things. And once people found out about it, they loved it so much that she has done dozens of workshops. She has been to Tuscany 3 times. She's been invited to Tuscany to do the workshop in Italy. She has been featured on all kinds of media, Care 11 in Minneapolis, the Star Tribune, etc. And she is going to join us for an hour and a half on the 10th. So we're going to do the class, the goal setting class from 4 to 5. We're going to take a break, and then from 6 to 7:30, she will facilitate that piece. So
Nice.
it's a really cool way before you start your success story, creating your success story. You will have done this 50 fun things. So then you can
Mm.
incorporate that into your success story.
Very cool.
So
Very
we
cool.
added that a
Yeah.
few weeks ago.
Fun.
Yeah, she's
That's
wonderful.
so much fun.
So
Okay,
yeah,
cool,
yeah.
cool.
So we're making
Very
it better
cool.
and
I'm gonna
better
look
each
it up.
time we
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
Yes,
So
totally. Well,
anyone
what was
who
that?
anyone who was in the November class can join in for the 50 fun things.
Cool.
I'll have a
Oh,
registration for you.
of
I
Yeah.
know
course.
you were saying that. I
Okay,
was kind of
done.
like, oh, we missed out.
Well, I'll have a
Yeah.
different registration
Yeah.
for you
I'm
all.
like, okay,
But
thank you, Trish. I'll look
Right.
that up. And then all of
Half
a
one group
sudden,
two. Yeah.
no,
yeah,
you
I'm
will
like,
have the
okay,
opportunity to do
fun
it as
things
well.
that I'm not privy to.
Right.
And then all of a
Well,
sudden she's like, and if you were in the November, you can do it. Yes.
well, and we all know that Simi loves to have a good time. So
Right.
50 fun
Oh
things is
yeah.
definitely up your alley. There's no
Yes,
question.
totally. So I'm so excited. So anybody out there that wants to do this 4 week goal setting Power Path session with
Right.
Trish. It's every Sunday in January, four days in January. You're gonna get a special discount, the early bird rate, which doesn't exist because by the time this airs, it's over. The deadline's over for early bird. But if you enroll, once you see this podcast before the first date, when is it? January, what was it again?
Is January 10th. So if you enroll by January 9th,
it just write Urbander. You have to write Urbander in the discount code box,
right.
and you'll get
it's
the
not
early bird.
Yeah. So
and it's not what?
It's not case sensitive. So caps are small letters. Yeah.
Cool.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Did you want to spell out Urbander?
Oh, I'm gonna write it in the. I'll write it in the thing, and absolutely. And so do it, people. It was fun. You'll make new friends. It's not. It doesn't break the bank. What is the early bird discount rate?
The early bird rate is $197, and it's $247 before if you don't use Urbander. But
yes, exactly.
So our friend Joel wrote a testimonial, and what he said is that this has been the best investment that he has made in himself. And it was a really low investment, but he's same as you. He's already on the path to doing some of his goals. So he's really excited about it. And that's what we've heard from most people is that they are feel like
and that's why we wanted to have you back. We wanted to have you back because I've personally never done anything like this. I've never taken a workshop for goal setting and to really like self-reflect and do this kind of just setting a goal to attain it kind of work. And so it was a new experience for me. And I did it because we did the podcast like 6-7 weeks ago, and I was like, when is it? Because I want to do this, so I was intrigued, and I'm glad I did because it really is helping me focus. And also things that are happening, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like it's like by reading it out loud too, it's almost like I'm manifesting it.
Yep.
And it's like all of this stuff is happening. Then I'm like, oh my God, this is for this. This is where this is gonna go. This is where I'm gonna the route, right? Or it's seemingly the route where a specific goal is going to be able to be accomplished. So anyway, it's exciting, really exciting. I appreciate that you came back on with us, Trish.
Absolutely, it's been great. It's been totally great. I really appreciate the fact that you had me on. You were so excited about it, and then you took it. And I think that having the 6 of you put a different spin on it, which was very cool. And it like I said, I had decided, okay, I'm going to be a participant in it. And I look at goal setting in general, and it's very pragmatic. And this has a pragmatic piece, but it also has that dreaming piece.
Yep.
Right? So it is very intentional from closing your year, because a lot of times we don't close our year out. We just say, okay, what's next?
Right.
Making sure that you clearly have your values in line so that your goals all align. And then the next piece is bringing it to constructing a 90-day plan, checking and changing, communicating, and having this wonderful accountability group, and then celebrating. It's just, it's truly an end-to-end process. And I'm really excited about how it's worked, and I really
I'm so stoked. I'm so excited. Chris, how are we going to celebrate when you accomplish? Because you better invite me to that part when you accomplish your goals, because I know it's going to be cool. So
Well,
yeah, 'cause you're a cool
you're
cat.
part of half of those goals, so don't worry about it. You'll be part of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal.
Awesome.
That will be in
Shoot, so we
December.
should have a meeting.
I know,
We
right?
need another meeting to meet. Call
Agreed.
me.
Agreed.
I know where you live. Yeah, totally.
So that'll be in December. Everybody will have the vaccinations by then. So I expect an invite too, and I will fly down to Orlando.
Yeah. Well, not me. I'm
Celebrate
not.
with y'all.
That's a whole other. That's a whole other episode. I'm not taking the vaccine. Okay. Let Fauci and all them take it first, and then we'll wait 6 months, see what happens, and then maybe I'll take it. But it eventually we are going to celebrate, and it's going to be big. Okay, good. I didn't know. Now I have all these questions. I want to know, how in the world am I part of your goals? That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
absolutely.
Episode
Now,
3.
I have another question for you, because aren't you going to take this process and have your company do their goals based on this process?
Who? What do you mean? I did.
Urbander.
Everyone in my team. Oh,
Right.
Urbander. We all did it.
Mhm.
Oh, like
Okay.
the company itself.
For the company itself.
Oh, I hadn't
That-
thought about that.
Oh, yeah, that was my email to you. That's where I think the
Oh.
next piece of this
Huh.
is that you all do this together. So imagine all
Mm.
6 of you sitting and closing the year out. What went well? What didn't? What are your values for your company? Creating a success story
Yeah.
all together.
Hmm.
For
Choosing
next
the
year,
goals
December.
for next year.
Oh,
Choose
look at you see I haven't, yeah, and I think you sent that to me earlier. I haven't had a chance to read it, because we've been recording
Yeah.
all day. But I didn't think of
I
that.
would
So there
love
you go.
I would love to see you all do it as a group, because
Could
that's
you
the
imagine?
next
That'd be cool.
generation of
Yeah.
Power Path goal setting. And the
Yeah.
reason it's called that is because it's about finding your power and getting on
Yeah.
that path
Mhm.
that's your power path
Yeah.
to make 2021 come to fruition.
Yeah. Awesome.
So-
Yes, that's true. So everybody's on the same page. The thing is, in our team, it's like everybody, it depends on what we're doing.
Right?
The right person just takes lead. So it's not, I mean, I'm just, I'm like president and CEO, whatever the hell that means, of Urbander. But sometimes I'm not running like the show, or not running the meeting, or not running whatever activity it is that we need to, or deliverables that we need to do, so
Right.
that would
So-
be very interesting, because maybe the other people have other ideas, in terms of goals that can be accomplished that I'm not seeing,
Right.
And
Right,
so anyway,
absolutely.
good. And like Chris, like I just found out from Chris, like, what do you mean that there's goals that I'm involved in, so
Well,
You
and
know?
it sounds to me like one of the values of your company is shared leadership.
yeah, it is. Yep.
So,
Yep,
getting clear on that and
Yeah,
and all of that. I think that would be
it is. Okay, cool.
phenomenal.
So we'll talk offline. We'll talk offline also.
talk
Yeah. And
offline.
another interesting thing, was Luna. Like Luna at the
Right.
beginning was very like shut in, like I'm not sure, like, and then all of a sudden it's like in those last 2 sessions, it's like, who are you? It's like you woke up, you know.
And like I told
It was
y'all,
great.
so Luna was the impetus to me adding 50 fun things.
Ah, okay.
That was the impetus for me to do that, because she was like, well, I'm not sure. I'm looking at the next part of my life, and it was just like, this would be such a great thing for her. And then I
Yeah.
started talking to people about it. They're like, no, we would love to do it. So we
Yeah.
added it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
I love it. So it's fantastic because you're calibrating. This is calibrating. We always talk about just do it. Listen, if you have an idea, a project, not necessarily coaching or whatever, it's just anything.
Mhm.
Sometimes we get so caught up with making it perfect. That has to be perfect before we deploy. And sometimes you just have to do it and calibrate as you go along, because that otherwise you're gonna stay stuck, So
Right.
I'm excited. I think we're all excited about, ending 2020 and starting fresh in 2021 with some clear goals outlined, but also with the flexibility to calibrate, right? To check and change if we need to, depending on the circumstance. And so I have to thank you, Trish, for taking us, through this process
Mhm.
and for guiding us, into
Absolutely.
really pausing. Pause. It really was a major like moment to pause, which I never get to do. And I know Chris
Yep.
doesn't either,
Right.
never has time for anything, right? So we're thankful. We're thankful for your leadership and for helping us sort things out for 2020 and then moving forward into 2021. I think
Yeah.
it was fun and
Agreed.
and
Well, and
and I
thank
can't
you.
wait to talk to you more. Yeah.
I know. And thank you so much for being part of that beta group because, um, well, first of all, it was fun. I mean, there were a bunch of fun people
Mhm.
together and everybody shared. And that's what made it so much more fun was it wasn't just me as a talking head. It was
Hmm.
everybody sharing their thoughts and what they were doing that made it just so much better. And I facilitated it. You all did the work.
Yeah.
So, I really you made it very successful. So I appreciate you as
Okay,
well.
cool.
All right.
Okay, good. Well, thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank you. And
you.
so, everyone out there, you already know you can enroll. We'll include the link.
Mhm.
Just make sure you include the discount. Otherwise, you're going to pay full price, and there's no need for that if we get the special Urbender discount, right?
That's
And
right. You
and
do.
take advantage of this. I'm telling you, it was great,
Yep. Agreed.
and it really helps also lift up your spirits and see, what you value and focus on, the things that really matter the most to you in all aspects. So it was personal, business, family, and just life.
And I would say,
And
Yep.
just
I would
life.
just
So
add,
it was great.
especially after a year like 2020, where all of our lives and goals are just, we're all just put into a washing machine and,
Yeah. Mhm.
kind of shaken up.
Yeah.
And so now we're here at the end of it and we know what just, happened, but what do we actually do, moving forward? So I think the goal setting for 2021 and to make that a really, positive year after this year, I think is something I'm definitely looking forward to.
Well, Chris,
Yeah.
that's so interesting because you just hit on the exact reason that I created it. And
Mhm.
I created it at a really affordable price because a lot of these workshops run like $1,000.
Yeah.
And I had read an article about people um, talking about what was your one word
Mhm.
to describe 2021 or 20, I'm sorry,
Mm,
2020. And they were
mhm,
words like fear,
Mhm.
failure,
mm, mm,
lockdown. And I
mhm.
mean, it's just the list went on. And I thought, what can I do to help people pull out of this and see that they can create a better 2021? Because in
Yeah.
2020, a lot of people gave up on their goals because they felt like they
Yeah.
weren't in control,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so now you can go into 2021 knowing what you want and putting that into play so it can come to
Yeah.
fruition. So,
Thank you
Yes,
for that.
totally. It's wonderful. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank
Oh,
you
thank
so
you.
much. This was great. And
Thank you.
everyone out there, we'll see you next week. Okay. Just make sure that you get yourself ready so we can shake off 2020 and move on into 2021 on the right foot. Okay. Bye bye, Trish
Absolutely.
and Chris. It was
Thank you so
always great
much.
talking.
Thank you. Have a
Bye-bye.
great holiday.
You too.
You
Bye.
too. Bye. This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. We want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. We're on Spotify and iTunes as well. There's more to come next week. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to speak up.